Are you also in a state of shock that it's almost Christmas? To be honest, I've already had a pretty full-on few months of working hard and playing hard, so I know that I'm gonna need to practice a little bit of balance to get me through December in one piece. And I also know that I'm not the only one. There's been a definite movement towards more mindful drinking, whatever that means to you. So whether it's sort of quality over quantity, lower alcohol options, or alternating alcoholic drinks with non-alcoholic drinks, or just cutting it out entirely. So I've partnered with Lyre's to bring you some delicious non-alcoholic cocktails to make sure that you have lots of options and everyone is included at social events, no matter what your celebrations look like this festive season. If you haven't heard of Lyre's yet, to be honest, I'd be surprised because they only launched 3 years ago but have gone on to world domination as the most awarded non-alcoholic spirits brand. They're actually Australian though, and so they're named after the Australian lyre bird because that kind of mimics sounds, and so the idea being that they make products that kind of mimic the traditional spirits categories and make it their own, just without the alcohol. So you have products that have the flavour profiles of gin, rum, whiskey and so on, but they also even do like vermouth and bitters and liqueurs, so there really is something for everyone. They also have a few little pre-made options which are really handy, especially here in Australia where a lot of gatherings obviously happen in parks and on beaches and things through December, given that it's summer here, so you can just chuck a couple of these in your cool box and you're good to go. Being so topsy-turvy weather-wise does always make it feel a bit funny doing kind of more traditional Christmas cocktails when we're actually kind of warming up into summer. So in the spirit of inclusivity, I'm going to do something for everyone here, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. So let's get making. Okay, but I'm going to start with what I'll probably actually be drinking on Christmas Day when it's quite hot here. And let's face it, even if you're somewhere cold, there's still usually plenty of bottles popped around the festivities. So why should you miss out if you're not drinking? So this is essentially a non-alcoholic version of a classic Italian red bitter, and Lyre's also makes a non-alcoholic sparkling wine, so you have everything that you need. You can keep it pretty classic with just sort of the bitter, some bubbles and soda water and a big slice of orange, but you can also add in some other flavors through syrups or just sort of fresh fruit if you happen to have any to hand. So I had a little raspberry syrup and it works really well with those kind of juicy orange notes. We're doing that and some strawberry and some mint just to make it all very fruity and fun. Perfect, so for this little guy, I'm just gonna slice up some strawberries. Pick whatever, you know, is in season and looking nice at the moment. And then into my wine glass, I'm just gonna go 60 mils of the little Lyre's Italian Spritz. See, it still makes a good sound even though it's non-alcoholic. So about 60 mils, or you can just kind of top it up, so about halfway up the glass. There. And then a little splash of soda. So yeah, about 30 mils of that one, but obviously you don't have to be too precious about it. And I'm also gonna go a little 15 mils of my raspberry syrup, just to add a little bit of fruity and fun edge to it. And it also makes it a pretty color as well. Then you can just pop your little strawberries in there, and then we'll add in some ice. And then last but not least, a nice big sprig of mint in there as well. So fresh and summery. Give it a little smack to make sure that you're gonna get all of that minty aroma. And we'll just pop that in the side. And this is one that I think a straw is probably pretty necessary so that you can kind of get right in there. There we have a little non-alcoholic spritz. It's really lovely, like it does have that nice kind of bitterness that you get from other sort of Italian red bitter kind of alcoholic counterparts, I suppose, that balances out with the nice raspberry and kind of fruity flavors there. And the little kind of sparkling wine alternative is also nice and dry. So yeah, overall just like fruity and fun and definitely infinitely smashable on a summer's day. All right, let's move into something that's a little bit more universally Christmas themed, and everybody loves cranberry jelly, right? Well, it turns out it's not just great on turkey. The balance of tart and sweet, it works really well here with the kind of peppery agave style spirit. You could definitely substitute in cranberry juice instead, but I would just kind of adjust the ratio there, so use a bit less lime and add a touch more agave to sweeten it. But using the jelly just adds this really lovely texture as well. So you just want to cut yourself a little wedge of lime. It doesn't have to be very big. It's just to wet the rim of your glass. And we're gonna do a little tajin rim if you have it. So it's like a little kind of spice mix. It's quite limey and zesty, as well as having a little bit of a kick to it. But otherwise you can definitely just do regular salt as well. And that kind of rounds out the fruitier flavors in there quite nicely. So I tend to only ever do a little half a rim, just because then people have the option with each mouthful of whether or not they want more, although tajin is so delicious that I don't know why you would ever not want more. And then in the shaker tins, we're gonna go 60 mils of this little Agave Blanco non-alcoholic, so essentially like a non-alcoholic tequila is kind of the idea. Then we're gonna go in with 15 mils of our little agave syrup. 30 mils of lime juice. Forgot my little elbow today, so I had to go real like old-fashioned elbow grease there. And then your little festive touch, which is 2 bar spoons of your delicious cranberry jelly. Then we'll just fill our tins with ice and shake as hard as we can. Give it a little taste. You can kind of adjust it to your own palate, but that's sitting pretty nicely for me. Just a little double strain into my comically large coupe glass here. In one of the last videos I had one that was really small and I was spilling it everywhere, so I was taking no chances this time. There we have a little kind of Thanksgiving Christmassy themed cranberry margarita. Yeah, as I said, it's really nice just because you get that little bit of a kind of thicker texture from having the jelly in there, and it's just heaps of kind of fruitiness, and then there is just that little like bit of kind of spice backbone from the Agave Blanco, little kind of non-alcoholic there that still holds the cocktail all together really nicely. So definitely kind of does everything that you want a nice fruity margarita to do, and especially with that little tajin rim to sort of liven it up as well. I'd definitely be super happy to drink this any time of day. Now, it might have been a minute since I got to spend the holidays in Scotland, but I certainly haven't forgotten how cold it can get, so I thought I'd better include one warm recipe for everyone who's currently freezing their little socks off. When I first tried the Highland Mall, it instantly made me think of kind of that Hot Toddies, because it's like a real, sort of has a nice gingery kick that actually gives it that kind of satisfying alcohol heat. And then it also made me want to pair it with honey. And then the apple juice here just brings out the kind of vanilla notes and works with the cinnamon and cloves really well. It's basically like a comforting apple pie of a drink. So we're gonna go in with 60 mils of Lyres. Then just like about 10 mils, but honestly I just kind of cut a little cheek of lemon there and just gave that a little squeeze in, and we'll pop that to the side and use that for like a little garnish as well. But I'm just gonna have to pop this one actually in the microwave because we're filming at the studio and so don't have access to sort of a coffee machine or an actual stove top, which is kind of how I would usually do this. Then we're gonna go with 20 mils or 2/3 of an ounce of honey and ginger syrup. So we make this one at work at Bomba by juicing fresh ginger and kind of combining that with a little honey syrup, so it's really quite nice and spicy. And then we're just going to do about 90 mils of apple juice, but again basically just kind of filling up your glass as long as it's not something too large. And you obviously want to make sure that you are using a glass which is suitable to have warm liquid in it so that you don't get a massive explosion everywhere. Then just going to pop in a little cinnamon stick, kind of give it a little stir to get that syrup included as well, and then just a couple of cloves. So this is also one that you can scale up and sort of keep on your stove and serve to any chilly visitors that are coming through. You obviously don't have to worry about the alcohol burning off here, which is kind of something that can happen when you're using proper booze. So you can just have it all in there together, but you obviously don't want to kind of boil it or start to reduce it down in any way, so just keep the heat really nice and gentle. And now, by the magic of television, this is going to go and get heated up in the microwave and come back delicious and toasty. So now it's back, it's all nice and toasty, and I'm just gonna pop back in a little slice of lemon there as well. So you've got like your spices and your citrus. And yeah, it's just really yummy. Like, as I said, it's got that really nice kind of gingery kick from obviously both the syrup, but also I do feel that it has quite a lot in the little Lyre's Highland Malt there. And all of the kind of warm baking spices are just really comforting. So yeah, I think obviously growing up Scotland, I tend to have a hot toddy if I'm sick, but being realistic, your doctors would probably much prefer you to have a non-alcoholic one. So this would be a very good option for that kind of situation. So there we have 3 very different non-alcoholic cocktails that prove that minimizing or abstaining from alcohol doesn't have to be any less fun or sophisticated than the boozy options. If any of these take your fancy, then pop onto lyres.co for the full range, and they are available in lots of countries, about 100 apparently, so hopefully you should be able to get your hands on them if you so desire. Thank you so much again to Lyre's for partnering with me on this, and hopefully it's given you some ideas, whether your festive season involves a cozy fire or a blazing sun. Non-alcoholic cocktails, so now you know.